I ranked every single Google Pixel phone ever made, from the original Pixel 1 to the brand new Pixel 10. Using a D to S ranking system, I'm revealing which phones were the absolute best and the ones which were not so great, and how they stacked up against the competition at the time. We'll also find out which older Pixels are still worth buying in 2025. Let's dive in. In 2016, Google decided to ditch their Nexus phone line and shift focus to something a bit more ambitious. They made the first Pixel and the Pixel XL. Okay, so the design wasn't so great, especially if you compare it to the high-end competitors at the time, like the Galaxy S7 or iPhone 7, but the camera was where the Pixels first shined. Because you see, they had developed a new kind of camera system that relied less on hardware with the focus on software processing. Thanks to its new kind of computational photography and HDR+ tech, it was arguably the best you could get on any smartphone, capturing incredible dynamic range and even pulling light out of almost complete darkness. It was also the first phone with the powerful Google Assistant built in. But is it still worth using in 2025? Honestly, no. You're only buying this phone for pure nostalgia. When you look at it compared to the competition back then, that's an easy A tier for me. Then in 2017, we got the Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL. For context, these were up against the Galaxy S8 and the iPhone 8. No surprise, Google kept the S-tier camera system from the Pixel 1 and coupled it with the most powerful chip at the time, the Snapdragon 835. But the design wasn't great, and the screen, so many people had issues with blue tint, screen burn-in, and poor color. And this is also when we said goodbye to the 3.5mm headphone jack. Sad. Is it still worth using in 2025? Honestly, probably not. Again, you're only buying this phone for nostalgia. For me, this one is a B. Now, by 2018, around the time of the Galaxy S9 and iPhone 10, Google had already built a reputation for leading in terms of cameras. And with the Pixel 3 and 3 XL, they doubled down with a killer feature, Night Sight. It lets you take photos even in pitch black darkness. It was incredible. But again, on the design front, the Pixel 3 came with big bezels, while other phones had already switched to a nearly bezel-less screen. And of course, people made fun of the notch on the 3 XL. But hey, the Pixel 3 was also the first with a full IP68 water and dust rating, which was a useful feature. So is it still worth it today? Honestly, probably not. I'll give this one a solid A-tier rating. Now, in early 2019, Google threw us a curveball with a new kind of Pixel phone, the 3A and 3A XL. They were only about $400, which was half the price of their flagships and had comparable specs and similar camera performance. But for the rest of this video, we'll focus on the flagship Pixels. Later that year, Google released the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL. This was around the time of the iPhone 11 and Samsung S10, which was peak Samsung, by the way, a story for another day. You might want to subscribe so you don't miss that one. Anyway, the Pixel 4 had further improvements to the camera system, with a new secondary camera, a telephoto lens, and a smoother screen 90Hz, which made it feel faster. But all this was completely overshadowed by the disastrous battery life, especially on the smaller model. Also, the inclusion of gimmicky and unpolished features like motion sense and the lack of an ultra-wide camera also made it feel like Google was missing the mark on what consumers wanted compared to the others. Just for the battery life alone, this phone is probably not worth it in 2025. I'll give it a C-tier rating. In 2020, Google launched only one phone, the Pixel 5, and it didn't even feature a flagship-level processor compared to the Samsung S20 or the iPhone 12, which were its competitors at the time. But this was probably a smart move by Google. Firstly, the design was great, and still is. Even though the Pixel 5 seemed like a mid-ranger, small phone users loved the compact design of it, and it finally fixed the battery problem that had plagued the Pixel 4. This phone also had a brand new speaker system, which didn't sound so great. Is it still worth it in 2025? I think it actually is, especially if you like smaller phones. I would have given it an S tier, but it wasn't a true flagship. I'll give it an A tier rating. Then, in late 2021, Google launched the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. This time, Google was going all in. The Pixel 6 was meant to directly compete with the Galaxy S21 and the iPhone 13, and it had the specs to prove it. This was the first phone with Google's custom-built Tensor Mobile chips. While they weren't as fast as a flagship Snapdragon chip in raw performance, they were designed to make the phones smarter and faster by handling Google's powerful AI and machine learning models directly on the device. On top of that, Google finally upgraded its camera hardware with a new 50-megapixel main sensor. The phones also got a huge battery upgrade and flagship speakers. The biggest shock for these phones, however, was the price. $900 for the Pro and only $600 for the non-Pro version, compared to the typical $1,000 for flagship phones. Is it still worth it? Yes. I'll give the Pixel 6 an S-tier rating just because of the price. In late 2022, we got the Pixel 7 Pro and the smaller Pixel 7. This was around the time of the Galaxy S22 and the iPhone 14. We saw that signature Pixel design again, but Google really polished it up with a sleeker camera bar and a more premium feel. Both phones came with a new second-gen Tensor chip, which made them faster and more efficient. And yes, the cameras were still among the best in the industry, and even better in low light with faster night shots. And somehow, Google still managed to undercut the prices, making them a fantastic deal. My only real nitpick was the fingerprint scanner, which could still be a little sluggish. In 2025, these are still solid phones, especially if you can find one at a discount. That's an easy S tier for me. So here we are in 2023, and we got the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro, which, for context, were competing directly with the iPhone 15 and the Galaxy S23. Right out of the box, the Pixel 8 delivered that polished Pixel experience we all wanted. The cameras were great, as always, and the base Pixel 8 finally got that long-awaited 120Hz display. Welcome to 2020, Google. The new Tensor G3 chip brought some incredible AI features that made it one of the best phones of the year. Everyone loved the compact design of the smaller Pixel 8, and it sold so well that it was a huge hit for the brand. Plus, that 7-year software support is no joke. It added immense value. In 2025, the Pixel 8 is still worth it. It's a solid S tier for me. Okay, it's summer 2024, and Google decided to shake things up this time around with 3 phones instead of 2, the Pixel 9, 9 Pro, and 9 Pro XL, to compete directly with the likes of the Galaxy S24 and the iPhone 16. It was clear an improvement over the Pixel 8, and the new camera design added extra charm to it, if I might add. But then again, while the new Tensor G4 chip was great for Google's AI features, it still lagged behind the raw performance and power efficiency of competing flagship chips, like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and Apple's A18. But then again, you might not buy the Pixel solely for the raw performance. It's a Pixel. Also, Google decided to up the prices this time around. $800 for the base Pixel, $1,000 for the Pro, and $1,100 for the Pro XL, which was more than the previous generations. The Pixel 9 is definitely still worth it, and you actually might want to hold up on upgrading to the 10 if you're thinking about it. It's a solid A. Quick question: which phone from the list would you have ranked differently? Let me know in the comments. So Google launched their shiny new Pixel 10s just a while back. Apple launched their iPhone 17s too, which I might just rank next, but we have the Galaxy S25 from Samsung for context. So the design is pretty much the same as last year's phones. Of course, they excel at all the Pixel stuff, the camera, software, AI, etc., and they even added MagSafe, which was a nice surprise. But they still have the same Pixel problems we've seen throughout. The new Tensor G5 still lags behind in performance and efficiency compared to the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, the chip that most flagship phones use in 2025. The emphasis this time around is more on AI, like the new camera feature on the Pixel 10s, which gives them the ability to get a clear enough image at 100 times zoom, even while lacking the necessary hardware to pull this off. It's cool, but it's all AI. I'll give the Pixel 10 an A tier rating. So there you have it, my full ranking of every Pixel phone ever made. If you want to see me rank another phone series, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you in the next one.